Greetings and welcome back to Doctor Who Revisited, where I go through every single episode of Doctor Who from 1963 all the way up to 2023 and review them. And this is a big one. This is big. It is the first episode of John Pertwee's final season as the Doctor, the Time Warrior. I love this episode. First off, let's start off with some obvious things. For this rewatch specifically, I watched the new updated version with the updated effects for some of the lasers, and more importantly, at the beginning, the opening scene where you actually see the Sontaran ship crashing. Yeah, so that's the version I watched, and I think it really does help. I love that the BBC keeps revamping, renewing all these old classic episodes with new updated visual effects. I think it does wonders for the show. And if you're a fan of the original classic effects, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think because of the show's legacy and the show's history, and more importantly, in order to get more people, more young people, I should say, interested in the classic series of Doctor Who, you kind of need to do that. You need to update the effects, not to say bring them up to standards of the modern series, but just a little bit better, something a bit more presentable for younger viewers. That's really going to help keep the younger generations more and more interested in the show. But that aside, oh my goodness, this episode is so good, and it's only a 4-parter. It's weird, but so yeah, this Sontaran ship crash lands in medieval Earth, and of course, immediately the people start thinking it's a fallen star, it's a sky demon, whatever. And nope, it's a Sontaran. It is the debut of the Sontarans. One Sontaran specifically, for some reason, they kind of held back on having multiple Sontarans in one episode for a couple of seasons before they actually started bringing them more and more in. But oh my goodness, what a glorious debut for this race. I mean, this Sontaran, Jingo Lynx, Commander Jingo Lynx, firmly establishes himself as a major threat to both the Doctor and to history. I mean, it's a space alien from a highly advanced race in the Middle Ages. That right there is a big no-no, a big wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey no-no, because you just know that something like that's really gonna mess up the timeline a lot. And boy, does he ever. He needs technology to fix his ship so he can get back up the sky. Let's be clear here. This Sontaran has no interest in Earth. Like, nothing. Planet Earth is nothing to the Sontarans, or at least it was until this episode. It's nothing for the Sontarans. All he has to do is just fix his ship and get back to the fighting against the Rutans. And I like that they kind of establish that the Sontarans are in a long-running war between their arch nemesis, the Rutans, which we will not see for several seasons now. But that aside, Planet Earth has have no interest to Sontarans until this episode happens, and then it sort of becomes a big thorn in the Sontaran side for many, many stories. But yeah, so how does he fix his ship? He's stealing scientists and equipment from the future to help repair his ship. That's some grandiose thinking. I really like that. I like that as a plan, mostly because that's how the Doctor gets involved. Because all these different scientists keep disappearing, keep going missing, and so UNIT decides to put them all in one place and put a guards on them. Probably not the smartest idea, but I mean, it's UNIT. It's how the military mind thinks, and of course, naturally, the Doctor decides to join in on the fun, to have some kind of investigation of his own, and that is when we get introduced to what is, in my opinion, the number one best companion, period, end of sentence, no questions about it, Sarah Jane Smith. And what a lovely introduction it is. She impersonates her own aunt because her aunt is a scientist, and so she's invited to that place. But this whole charade, I should say, was her faking it because she's a journalist and she's doing a story. That's some really great character building right there. And of course, immediately she doesn't trust the Doctor, and I really like the interaction she has with the Doctor from the start. Obviously, the Doctor instantly recognizes her, instantly knows that she's not who she says she is, and he exposes her ruse, but doesn't give her away too much. He's kind of fond of having her around like that, and I love the constant jabs that they keep throwing at each other. I mean, that is a great Doctor and companion relationship in the making right there, and she hasn't even been officially joined. And even how she begins traveling with the Doctor completely by accident. She wanders into the TARDIS when he's not looking, and he's going after where the scientists keep disappearing off to, and somehow she ends up in the Middle Ages. And she starts causing some problems, I'll admit. It's a bit ridiculous that it takes her a while to realize that she's not really where she thinks she is. She thinks it's some sort of affair, some sort of pantomime, some other options being thrown around. And then through her, that's how the Sontaran Jingo Lynx discovers that, oh yeah, this species has two genders, or at least as far as he understands it. And I love that sometimes throughout the episode she kind of makes the joke, it's like, oh, it's like you're living in the Middle Ages, because they are living in the Middle Ages. I really love the Doctor's first introduction to the Sontaran. It kind of feels like he knows of the Sontarans. I mean, he mentions them several times by name before Lynx outs himself, as it were, as a Sontaran. But like, if he encountered them several times already, how come he didn't recognize him when he saw him, when he took off his helmet? Because I mean, that's the first time we've seen Sontarans on the show. Clearly, the Doctor has at least heard of them. And there are a couple of Big Finish stories that take place before this Doctor, where the Doctor has actually met Sontarans. But I mean, of course, that's Big Finish. That's several decades ahead of the show at this point. But yeah, that was kind of weird. But another thing I like about this episode is that the Doctor basically name drops his home planet for the first time. Gallifrey. That is the first time the Doctor's home planet Gallifrey is mentioned by name. 11 seasons in. And, it just goes to show you how the approach to the show has been. I mean, it took them 6 seasons to introduce the name Time Lords into the show, and actually show Time Lords properly, aside from a few people here and there. This is the first mention of Gallifrey, and I really like that. I like that it's a throwaway, and the audience is just expected to run with it, and I kind of like that approach to the Doctor, as opposed to in the modern series when Gallifrey is first mentioned by name. It's kind of a big moment. So yeah, I really like that. And going back to Sarah Jane for a bit, after she has a bit of has a bit of few funny moments in Iron Ground's castle, and some few terrifying moments with the Sontaran. She's taken away back to the castle of what's his name, Sir Edward. I think that's the guy's name. He's taken to Sir Edward's castle, and what does she do? She immediately comes up with a plan of action to go back to Iron Ground's castle and kidnap the Doctor and force him to help Sir Edward's side. I really like that. That's taking the initiative. That's great. I love Sarah Jane Smith. She does have some moments when she falls into that the screaming companion who needs to be rescued, but for the most part, she really does handle herself brilliantly, and I really like that. She's got character, she's got spunk, and I love it. And it's an interesting fight sequence in the courtyard, where it's just the one camera and you're just following the Doctor from a distance, fighting all these guys. That scene was a bit weird, accentuated by the fact that we kind of get to see it twice. The ending of one episode and at the beginning of another. But whatever. I mean, it gets us to where we need to go. Sarah Jane and the Archer person guy save the Doctor, and the Doctor starts working for Sir Edward, coming up with creative ways of holding back Iron Ground and his men without a single drop of blood. And I like that. That's how the Doctor operates. No weapons, no bloodshed, no violence, no nothing. That's just how the Doctor works. And I love that he's able to prove that in this episode. And furthermore, later in the episode, when his plan was basically just to put everyone to sleep and get all the scientists dehypnotized and out of there back to their own timeline and just try to safely evacuate the castle while Lynx goes off in his spaceship and blows the entire castle to pieces. I really like that. I love some of the fight sequences between the Doctor and the Sontaran. Here's something that doesn't really get brought up enough, I think, and it's something that kind of really bothers me. And, it's a positive for this episode, kind of a negative for some other episode, but, I mean, look at how tall Lynx is. Seriously, Sontarans are not short. They're not squat and stumpy. Sontarans are big. Sontarans are threatening. Sontarans are intimidating. They are warriors, for crying out loud. I will never understand the decision for the modern series to make them tiny, diminutive trolls, almost. Like, how? Where did that decision came from? Who thought that was a good idea? And I like that they kind of went back to the original design for the Sontarans in Jodie Whittaker's final season, but then again, I mean, they still kept them squat and short and stumpy. So I don't like that. But I mean, just looking at this episode, that's just one Sontaran, and look at the damage one Sontaran is able to do, and look how threatening he is. I mean, he thrashes the Doctor around in some of their fight sequences, and he thrashes all the other people around. I love that. I love that about the Sontarans, and I kind of wish they go back to that model, but unfortunately, the idea of short Sontarans kind of caught on. So, what can you do? Anyways, and this episode also introduces the idea that you can stop Sontarans by smacking them on the back of the head on the Provic vent. That's right here, and it's actually happened twice throughout the episode. I think the second time kind of kills him because you shoot an arrow through it, and then he blows himself up by launching the spaceship prematurely, and it takes himself, his ship, and the entire castle with him. So happy ending, I guess. And at least they managed to get all the necessary people out of there in time. But yeah, this is a great episode. I really like that, and I love the line that the Doctor says to the Brigadier of like a straight line, maybe the shortest distance from one point to another, but it's hardly the most interesting. I love that. That is words to live by, especially if you're the Doctor. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about this episode. I really love it, and it's a great opener to a final season for the Doctor, and for this Doctor. And can't wait to see more, to revisit more episodes with the Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith. That is all I have for now. Let me know what you think of this episode in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. So, till then, everybody, Sonta ha! Sonta ha! Sonta ha! Sonta ha! Hi there! Thank you for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time.